All right. So, good evening here on our side of the planet in the United States. We are so excited to have this opportunity to hear once again from students at the Green School in Bali. And they are here with their secondary principal, Dr. Benjamin Freud. Benjamin, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, hi, I'm Benjamin Freud. I'm a head of upper school here at Green School Bali. It's my third year here, and I'm really, really fortunate to be running the 2-year capstone program here at Green School with some other great educators. We really surround these young people with as much support and guidance as we can, although it's their projects. And I'm really, really looking forward to hearing what these young people have been doing, and I hope you find it exciting because it really shows what we can do when we let young people kind of run their show and take what is interesting to them and really put it towards contribution to community.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much, Benjamin. That's perfect. All right, let's have the students introduce themselves as well. We can do this in order of presentations as well. So starting with Lalita.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Lalita Nara, and I'm originally from Bali, Indonesia. And my topic is about regenerative tourism, but also I will be talking a little bit more about regenerative practices in general.
Wonderful. We can't wait to hear from you, Lalita. Thank you. And second is Manon. Please share a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Manon. I'm from Belgium and Japan. I'm 18 years old, and my project is based on my two passions, piano, classical piano, and social justice.
Awesome. Love that combination. Thank you. And Kaya, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Kaya, and my greenstone is about um, talking about sexual violence in a safe and engaging space that builds empathy and compassion.
Excellent. Excellent. All really important and yeah, important and pressing topics, frankly, right now, and in the world in general. So, I don't want to spend too much time doing the talking, of course. I'll remind our audience that you will have ample opportunity to ask questions. So, if you have questions about the specific projects, you are welcome to raise a hand to use your microphone and or use the chat to position your question. If you have a question for Benjamin, probably better to use the chat time-wise. And if we end up with a little extra time at the end and can ask him some more direct questions about the planning behind these things and the structures from the educator's perspective, we will make sure that that happens. But in the meantime, Benjamin, if you'll keep an eye on the chat, we'll invite folks to ask those kinds of questions there. All right. And so, with no further ado, I want to pass the mic over to Lalita. You are up.
Hi again, everyone. So my title for my presentation today is The Island We Share. And by the island, I mean Bali. And as we all know, Bali is one of the most visited islands in the world and is also well known for its title as the Island of Paradise. And people come here, to look for peace, for healing, for freedom, for authenticity. And from the trend now on, it's common to find people, going to cafes, drinking their matcha, going to Pilates club in the morning at 7 a.m., do journaling about their gratitude, sitting near the rice fields. And sometimes I sit there and think, and do we actually see each other here, or are we just sharing the same space without sharing real connection? And so I've been thinking about this question. And personally, I am Balinese and I've lived in Bali for my whole life. And by going to green school, I've always felt like I was living two lives. One, of course, as a Balinese, busy with my gamelan. Oh, this is a picture of the crowded scene. This is me. And first, I am a Balinese and I like to play music. I like to play the Balinese music instruments. And the other the other life that I have is as an international student at Green School with many friends from all around the world. And because of that, I've always seen two perspectives, one from inside, what it means to be Balinese, and also one from slightly the outside. And by living in two worlds, I would say that I'm well exposed of how the island is changing, and I've seen small roads turn into busy cafes, and rice fields turn into villas, beaches turn into clubs, and I've also seen something less visible change. It's how people interact, and there are more foreigners living here for long term now, so not just tourists, and more digital nomads, more lifestyle influencers, more people who say like they live in Bali, but sometimes it feels like we're living parallel lives, and they have their own yoga studios, their smoothie bowls, like co-working spaces. And Balinese, we have like a lot of ceremonies, village meetings, and family obligations. And we exist next to each other, but we're rarely together. And as a Lalita, I stand like right in the middle, a little bit of both. And from this position, I've started asking some questions about this. And the issue is not tourism alone, I would say. It's not foreigners alone, it's not locals alone. It's actually the lifestyle culture that has formed here. And it's a culture of consumption, culture where Bali becomes like just a backdrop for self-improvement, like content creation. And I feel like slowly the relationship becomes more of transactional. People give money to tour guides and they give a tour, but it's rarely about human to human connections. And Balinese families adapt to survive economically as well, considering a lot of foreign owned businesses are building up here, and so less profits are going to the Balinese families. And somewhere in between, as I said before, genuine human to human connection becomes quite rare. And I know it's important to talk about sustainability, like about, plastic, the plastic issue and the trash. But it's also important to talk about relational sustainability and about cultural sustainability as well. And what about the sustainability of the identity for young Balinese people growing up inside this global bubble? And so that's the problem that started to bother me, and which is the disconnection of humans living in this paradise. So moving on to my project. At first, I thought my project was about regenerative tourism. Most people know the word sustainable. Sustainable tourism usually means reducing the harm and using less plastic, conserving the water, offsetting carbon. It's about maintaining what we have so it doesn't get worse. And I interviewed a teacher who is like the expert in regeneration in this school, and he said that sustainability is more of a fixed solution, but instead regenerative tourism goes even further. It's a developed version of sustainable tourism, and by the word regenerative, it's still hard to define. Like there's not a lot of sources about it, and by the term regeneration, the solution on regeneration is more adaptive, and it can adapt to whatever changes in this world. And in regenerative tourism, it asks the question, instead of just doing less damage, can tourism actively restore what has been weakened? And can it restore ecosystems? And can it strengthen the local communities, empower the local communities? Can it bring dignity back to the culture instead of turning it into like just an entertainment or performance? And it shifts the question from how do we minimize the harm to how do we leave this place better than how it was before? So, but as I work more and more on this project, I realized that I didn't cover all the problems that I'm approaching. Tourism is only one part of the story, and instead, the bigger issue is how we live in here and the lifestyle that is in Bali. So, I shifted my focus from regenerative tourism to regenerative practices, and regeneration is all about how people exist in a place, restoring systems, restoring ecosystems, and most importantly, restoring relationships. And regenerative practices are not limited to one industry. It could be how we run business, how we host guests, how we build communities, how we how we make decisions. and a regenerative practice strengthens the systems it touches. And that's where I started seeing my role differently. And I don't want to be someone who criticizes from only the outside, but I want to help in a way that I can bridge the disconnection from the lifestyle in Bali. And so I believe that young people in Bali are in a unique position right now. We understand the global culture, we use social media, we speak multiple languages, but we're still rooted in our tradition. And we are the generation that can either lose our identity or we can redefine and change it, shift it a little bit. And I believe that we are the people that can change the system. And so my project, one of my projects, oh, sorry, this is just a short definition. And this is me with my friends to play a gamelan at a ceremony. And so my first project is called Aka Connection. It's a youth-led project that I co-founded with my friend with the aim of creating a real connection between international youth and the Balinese community. And so one of the events that I'm excited to talk about is our 3-day youth trip, our 3-day regenerative youth trip that will be happening in May, where participants can experience living in a village, learning about the rice fields, the irrigation system in Bali, and many more. And also cultural workshops, learning about circular economy, and of course, regenerative practices from another expert, which I'm collaborating with. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's a tour, but our goal is more to create space for genuine connection and conversation. And by including Balinese youth as facilitators from my village, international participants can relate more with each other as youth and to create a fun and educational space, of course. And to market this event, we started our Instagram page. And here we post about our coming event, but also facts about Bali. Like we post videos on a holiday called Galungan in Bali. So it's not only about marketing our event, but also to raise awareness on things happening in Bali. And you can scan this QR code if you're interested in our Instagram. Please check it out. And the other one is the mangrove service trip. So other than Aka Connection, I'm leading a service trip, which is an animal trip in high school at Green School, where we go to a certain place to do service depending on where the place is. So for example, I'm leading a trip going to West Bali, and there's an issue of abrasion where the shoreline moves inwards, so the water destroys the village slowly. And so we're restoring mangroves to tackle that issue. And this trip is actually a continuation of a Green School alumni project last year, leading the same trip that focuses on mangrove restoration. And I thought by continuing this trip, it is a great platform for me and a great opportunity for me to add my insights as well on building connections with the community in West Bali and not only focus on the mangrove restoration. And so that this trip also keeps being student led every year. And that is why this year the focus will not be on mangrove restoration. Yes, we will plant mangroves, but not as much as what we did last year. But we're focusing more on community connection, building youth agency and cultural awareness. And we will go to the local schools in West Bali to also share our knowledge about mangroves, but not only a one-sided sharing session, but they will also share what they have done for mangrove restoration in that area. Because they live in the area, we feel like, of course, they've been doing something about it as well. So we're not the experts alone, but it's more of creating a mutual understanding of the issue and how we can solve it together. And this can create a long-term relationship and impact so that they don't have to rely on us and they are empowered to do mangrove restoration themselves. And then we will connect with, after that, after the mangrove restoration, the students from Green School will also go to an art community to learn um, about like one of the music instruments called jegok. Since we actually have the music instruments in school, but I've never touched it, So we're gonna learn it in West Bali and bring whatever knowledge we have from there to our school, which I thought is going to be fun. And yeah, this project will always be continued beyond my graduation. Hopefully, I'm staying in Bali, and I take all the struggles and all the stress as part of the learning process. And I believe Bali needs a regenerative relationship. And if the youth don't step into the space, someone else will define the future for us. And my Greenstone is an attempt to bridge the two worlds that I live in, and an attempt to turn coexistence into connection, and an attempt to prove that regeneration is not all about abstract concept, but also to put it into practice. Thank you.
I love it. Oh, what a great project. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lalita. If you can keep your answers short, that'd be helpful because I'm watching the time, obviously, right? I've got to make sure we have time for everybody. But I'm curious, you made a great comment about, taking the stress and the challenges as learning opportunities. Can you share one of the challenges that came up and something that you learned along the way?
So one of the main challenge, this doesn't go towards certain projects, but in general, I have so many ideas in mind. And from this project, I even have two projects actually going on. But yeah, that was the challenge on how to, I guess, weave the projects together so it's cohesive and it's more impactful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as opposed to lots and lots of different and disconnected
Yes.
ideas. Love it. Thank you so much, Lalita. I'm hoping we'll be able to hold on to some time at the end for more general questions for all three of you. But I also don't want to take the chance of anybody not having time to share their project. So we'll go ahead, if that's good with everybody, and move on then to Manon. Love to hear from you now. And I think we've got Lalita sharing your slides for you, if I remember correctly. Perfect. Manon, you can go ahead and unmute and start chatting with us as she's getting those shared if you want.
Okay, so my project is called Fragments of Silence. Okay, thanks. And it's basically about, wait, sorry, it's lagging. Okay. And it's basically about bringing attention to what we choose to see, what we see, and what we choose not to see. And so for my project, I want to try to take people into that gap.
Can I
go to the
ask
next slide?
Lalita, can you put the cursor on the first slide for us and then hit slideshow?
Because I think it's lagging.
I think it's lagging.
Oh,
Or maybe,
are you saying, okay,
Manuel,
you're
can you
seeing,
just switch computers?
Pardon?
Can you just sit where Lalita's sitting?
that can work too, but
Next.
that I'm nervous about the change in the sound source, Benjamin. So if they can get this, yeah, it sounds like it's more about a lag. Is it gonna work? If not, you can go ahead and just start talking about it, even though we're seeing the 2 rows of slides, right? So, but that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to start with a quote I found really impactful, which is that invisibility is not the absence of something, it is the condition of being present without being acknowledged. And it is produced through systems, habits, social norms, and design. And when something becomes invisible, it stops being questioned and instead becomes normal. And so for my project, I'm exploring what exactly makes someone invisible and how invisible can someone become. So just as a little introduction about Bali, it's an island that I've seen is divided into two worlds, two different economies, two different realities, and two different versions of value. And so what I'm exploring is why it was built this way, when, how, and by who. So started asking these questions when I realized how easy it is to benefit from a system that we don't truly see or understand. I live in the visible side of Bali, you could say, the more curated and comfortable version. And at some point, I kind of had to ask myself what makes that comfort possible. So for the project, I'm combining my two passions, piano, which has always been a tool that I use to process my emotions and the world around me, and sociology and social studies, and social justice, sorry. And I'm using that to understand how systems and social norms are created by tracing them back to their roots. And this project is about bringing those two together to ask if invisibility feels normal, what patterns build that normality, and can we use sound to rehumanize the systems? Could you move to the next slide? Okay, so my project is split up into two. The first is structural. I've been researching how labor invisibility in Bali isn't accidental and how it's produced through economic systems, legal frameworks, cultural expectations, and still present colonial structures. And through my research, I've noticed that these aren't separate forces and they intersect a lot, reinforce each other, and together they make certain people's work disappear from the view of the majority of people in Bali. The second part is human, because systems are really abstract and it's hard to feel an emotional connection to statistics and data. And so the musical aspects of my project will be interviews I've conducted that are translated into music so that people can connect to it emotionally. And the music is also used as a bridge so that it doesn't just accompany the research, it also translates like the systems, the repetition, the daily lives of people. Could you move to the next slide? Okay, so I have three aims for my project. The first one is attention, to make people pay attention. Most of us like move through Bali without questioning the systems that are put into place. We notice what we've been trained to notice, and we often overlook what we've kind of allowed to be overlooked. And this project starts by asking, what are we not seeing? Why has it become so easy not to see it? And why do we choose not to see it? The second is the questioning. Once you start paying attention, obviously certain questions start popping up. Who made this experience possible? Who built this resort? Who wove that fabric? And most importantly, who disappears once the experience starts to feel normal? The third part is disruption, because invisibility isn't permanent. It was designed through policy, through culture, through economic structure, and so it can also be disrupted. And this project isn't just about analyzing what's going on. It's to try to interrupt the system. Could you go to the next slide? Okay, so this is how the project will work. On the research side, I'm creating a structural map, kind of like a mind map flow chart that will be presented at the end through a big projection that you can move across. And this will explore the economic and legal forces that shape workers' lives in Bali, specifically the informal sector. And then I have an intersection analysis because obviously, like I said earlier, no singular system explains what's going on. And then root cause investigation to trace how we got to where we are now historically. And then on the human side, through interviews, I've gathered lived narratives. I sat with people and I listened to them, not to data, but to the stories and experiences. And yeah, and then the music I'll use those interviews and those lived narratives to translate into music. And the goal is to rehumanize, like I said, and take someone who has been made abstract by a system and make them present again. And together, I'll combine these three things, do something that research alone can't, which is to make you feel the weight of what we haven't been feeling. And so the final result will be, like I said, a structural and systemic map presented as an interactive showcase in April through a projection, and then later on a painting at school, which that people can move through to actually understand how these systems interact and reinforce each other. And the music will be used as an additional layer to create some kind of emotional reaction. Can you do the next? Okay, these are like a few examples of the things I'm researching and focusing on. So these are the 5 big systems that I'm working on that I've found are really important and intersect very often. So economy, most workers in Bali exist in the informal sector. Actually, over 50% of them do. And so they don't have contracts, no protection, no safety nets. And economic vulnerability isn't accidental. It's built into all of this. And then tourism. Bali generates most of its GDP from tourism, and it's kind of sold as a paradise. But paradise requires a huge invisible workforce, people who clean villas, prepare ceremonies, tend to gardens, and those people rarely appear in ads or brochures. Governance, legal and union rights for workers in the informal sector are extremely weak. There is huge lack of protection in that department, and the government actually benefits from this. It's called a social safety valve. Culture, I'm exploring how cultural dynamics shape who does which work and what work is recognized. And then obviously, finally, the colonial layer to question who serves, who benefits, who owns, and whose profits. Could you go to the next slide? Okay, and I wanted to end on a little quote. The invisible is a secret counterpart of the visible, because, and yeah, so the point of my project is to bring light to this, because every comfortable curated experience exists because something or someone, most specifically someone, has been moved to the other side of the frame and pushed into some shadows. Yeah.
Wow. That's a really powerful project, Manon. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, who is the audience you're hoping to bring in April? Because my biggest question would be, how do you make sure that the people who are ignoring the invisible the most prominently, if you will, or even actively, how do we make sure they're the ones who see this, or that they're among the people who see this or experience this?
Well, obviously it'll be advertised and like open to everyone. I also have a school one that's happening during the art festival, which I'm pretty sure is mandatory for everyone. And so it's kind of like you're kind of forced to go either way. And it'll be a workshop where people actually will have the opportunity to like question what other intersections could be possible, and we'll leave like bubbles open so people can add their own things. And so I'm hoping that will allow as many people as possible to come without choice.
Love it. Oh, that's great. Do we have another question on the tip of anyone's tongue right now? Again, I'm kind of watching that time, thinking maybe we hold some of them for the end. Mel, do you want to jump in quickly with that insight? Because as she was the whole time, both of these presentations, frankly, both of these projects feels very relevant to Hawaii as well.
It does, absolutely. And the similarities are there. I don't want to compare the two situations for sure. But this idea of invisible labor, there was also something else Lalita had talked about, where people are benefiting, I think, off of these systems that are in place, and who are the people who are not benefiting, for lack of a better word. But it is very striking, especially because I live in Hawaii too. I do see the similarities.
Yeah, seems like there's some pretty strong parallels there. All right, well, let's go ahead and move to our third student. We've had a little bit of musical chairs there played. And then, of course, we are going to hope that we can spend a few minutes with some general questions at the end. So our audience, just reminding you, please use the chat. Please raise a hand if you have specific questions about the project or questions for after Kaya's presentation about the general design behind all of this. So let's go ahead and pass this over to Kaya, who currently appears to be Benjamin Freud, but I'll go ahead and get that fixed for you while you talk. How about that?
Yeah, sorry, I had a problem with my screen.
It's quite all right.
I will share my screen really quick. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so before I start, I would just like to say that I will be talking about some sensitive topics. So just like a trigger warning. So, the reality of the topic of sexual violence is, so according to UNICEF, globally, 1 in 5 girls and women have been subjected to sexual violence, and globally, 1 in 7 boys and men have been subjected to sexual violence. And these statistics are one of the main motivations, one of my main motivations for doing this project, because for taking action for the men and the women who have experienced sexual violence. And yeah. So this is an extremely important topic for me because of how relevant and prevalent it is in our world today. And because of the numerous silenced voices around us that are directly affected by this topic. And so how I'm taking action is right now mostly education. I created a 3-session long program called Let's Talk About It, where I invite people to engage in conversation about sexual harassment, sexual assault, and rape through activities that are engaging. And yeah, the aim of the sessions is to create a safe and engaging space that builds empathy and compassion, opens minds, and understanding different experiences that lead to a change of behavior and identifying ways to support. So it's really important for me through this project to take empathy and compassion into account, and make sure that everyone is being empathetic and compassionate with each other, and making sure that nobody says anything that might hurt someone else or anything like that. So right now there's 3 sessions, which I have held with the graduates last year, my grade, and then the grade below, and the teachers. I did a session with the teachers. So yeah, like I said, the sessions consist of many activities that I created with my mentor. And these activities, so in the first session, we start with definitions, and we define empathy, compassionate, sexual harassment, sexual assault, and rape. And I start by asking the participants to share their understanding of each word, and then I give them the dictionary definition of each term. Then we do an activity about challenging the assumptions made around these topics, where I split everyone up into 3 groups, and the each group gets either the topic of sexual harassment, sexual assault, or rape, and then there's prompts on the board that start conversations. The prompts are assumptions that are made, like of where it happens, who is involved, what it looks like in your own country, what it looks like in Bali, what it looks like globally. And it's just kind of about challenging the assumptions, naming the stereotypes, but then also digging deeper. And instead of saying, for example, it happens to everybody, digging deeper and saying, like specifically who is involved in these things. Then in the second session, we start with, oh, I have some pictures of some sessions. We start with over the line statements where I read out some scenarios, and if people relate to the scenarios, then they step over the line. And that activity is just to for everyone to know that they're not alone in their own experiences. And the scenarios are quite general, but yeah, that everyone goes through similar experiences and nobody's alone in what they experience. And then we do the how to help activity where I have 17 statements written on little pieces of paper that you can see in the middle picture, the little pink pieces of paper. And these statements are actual responses that people have gotten after sharing their experience to someone. And the responses range from really helpful to really unhelpful. And there's like and then the participants are meant to order from what they think would be the most helpful way to respond to someone sharing their experience to the least helpful way to respond. And this is just a helpful tool. It helps people learn what kind of language to use if someone were to share their experience with them, because it can be like a shocking thing to hear, and yeah, and often people respond badly unintentionally. So yeah. And then in the last session, it's the sessions are split genders for the first two, just so people feel comfortable, and anybody who doesn't identify with either gender, I go up to them beforehand and ask them which group they would be more comfortable being in. And then the third session is both genders together. And this is to see if people react differently to activities that we've done before. So I redo the how to help activity. And so far it's all been very similar. And then we do activities about power, because in the past sessions, a common thing that came up was power dynamics. And yeah. So I'm also planning on doing these sessions with parents. I have not done that yet, but I plan to continue doing that. And then I've also created a toolkit workbook thing with all the activities from all the sessions that I've created. And there's also tips and tricks on facilitating sessions. And there's also resources at the bottom for if someone needs to talk to someone, I'm going to add resources. It's still a bit of a draft, but I'm working on it, and I'm planning on publishing it for everybody to use if they would like to. I would like to also share it with schools around Bali if they would like to incorporate the sessions into their schooling. And I also plan to make the sessions a part of the Green School curriculum, which I'm working on, so that it continues after I graduate. And I'm also going to get an 11th grade, or yeah, an 11th grade student to continue my project as well and make it their own and further the project, just to, yeah, make sure it still happens after I graduate. And I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Wow, what a powerful, super powerful project. And I have to say, I love the way that all three of you have found ways to even to make your thinking sustainable beyond your own time, right? So you're not just doing this for school and then it's over, right? In all three cases, I can hear that passion to do something that continues. So that was great, Kaya. I'm curious from your perspective. This is a really heavy topic, obviously, right? And so I'm curious What have been some of the challenges in terms of running those sessions? Like, what have you learned about what it is to be a teacher when the topic's hard?
Yeah, so honestly, because I'm really passionate about this project, there haven't been too many challenges, but I will say sometimes um, if people don't understand what I'm trying to explain to them, um, well, for example, in one session, I had somebody who was thinking statistically about things, and then I was thinking emotionally, and I was trying to explain about the emotional side of these topics, but they were thinking statistically. So there's stuff like that where it's just kind of different perspectives that need to be explained, but it's been pretty good so far, and anything that is really difficult to answer to or something, I have a counselor there who can step in if there's something that I don't know how to respond to.
Oh, that's great that you have that support there on hand. That's terrific. Well, let's get some questions for all three of them. Thank you, Kaya, for yours. Actually, before we even do that, let's do a round of applause. So turn on your microphones if you can, but if you can't, we can also just do it quietly. I just want to make sure the students know how much we loved that because that was really, really powerful and really grateful to hear these stories. And there, Lynn, you made a comment in the chat that I would love to make sure gets said out loud about that sustainability piece. Do you mind turning on your mic and saying something about cathedral thinking?
Well, I was quoting Josh Harpoon, of course, and cathedral thinking is people, when they built cathedrals, they knew that they probably wouldn't live to see the end of the building of the cathedral because it might take 200 years to build. And so, what I hear you all talking about is you're laying the groundwork for something for many years to come. And that is a gift to your community and to our society in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Lynn. I just wanted to make sure it got said because I saw that immediately and went, yes, that's so true. We're not just thinking in terms of our own time at high school, right? Or even on our own time on this planet. We're thinking beyond that somehow, which I love. I'm curious to hear, since I'm not seeing a whole lot of questioning so far, which is okay. I'm curious if, and this is the kind of question where I know my niece, who is a senior in high school, would absolutely kill me if I asked this question in public. So please feel free to just say, oh my God, pass, Jennifer. But the question is, do you know what you're going to be doing next? And how, if at all, did this project impact your thinking about your next steps in life beyond high school? Whatever that looks like. And I'm not suggesting you have to have it all figured out, just to be clear. Anyone up for taking that question?
Okay, so I don't have any 100% acceptances yet, but I really want to do the dual degree program with Sciences Po, a political science school in France, and UBC in Vancouver. And so I'm really interested in systems and understanding how inequalities like form. And so that's kind of why I added that extra research part because it's also really useful for later on because I might want to do work in like policymaking, structural reform, or human rights activism.
Love that. And so will the music, do you imagine that the music will stay part of that? Or, I mean, I guess it's hard to know still right now from your perspective, but how does music fit into what you imagine for your future?
Um, I don't know. Music is just something I really love. So I kind of just wanted to add that in, but I don't really see a future where I'm like playing music or something professionally. It's just something I wanted to add in for like, because it's something I love.
Well, I think you hit on a really powerful idea too, Manon, which is that the arts have a way of hitting the heart that other fields don't, right? So, Kaya, you talked about this too, right? Somebody who's looking at something from an emotional perspective versus a statistical perspective, right? The music, um, gets at the heart part of all of that, right? So that's certainly something that I live by, even if I'm not practicing my art all the time. Is that idea of nicely done, Lalita? That idea of the arts being a way to move people, right, within those systems, and to humanize within those systems. So, love it. Very nice. Who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Yeah, please.
So for after graduation, I'm planning to stay here in Bali to pursue arts, but not in music, but more of like visual arts and graphic design. And I really want to stay here in Bali since my parents own a homestay. So I want this homestay to be like the base for regenerative practices and to raise awareness on regenerative tourism as well and continue the business.
Love it. Love it. So this will be your focus for at least a while, is to make this
Yeah.
happen as a business for yourself. That's great. And
I
for
just
for
want
the
to run it
family.
myself for like, I don't know, first couple years, and then
Hmm.
hopefully someone will take on it after.
Excellent. I love that. And what about you, Kaya?
I'm planning on taking a gap year, and just traveling around the world, getting some experience doing internships and stuff. And then after that, I'll probably go to university. But I'm not sure yet because I am not sure what I want to study, and I want to figure that out before I go to university.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of folks will decide that as they go through university, and that's a slightly more expensive scenario for your parents for sure. So, good to get some thinking in first. Benjamin, do you want to jump in? Tell us a little bit about some of the structures in the background that we might not be aware of. Oh, he has to figure out your sound system now, doesn't he?
No, this is really exciting. I just wanted to say that this is, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes,
This
yes.
is a really, I'm touched by the fact that it's been picked up about the sustainability piece. Our dream here at Green School, because we have capstones in grade 5, grade 8, and grade 12 for a 2-year program, grade 11, 12, is have students not just pass on their projects year to year, but also across school. So high school to middle school to lower school, so we can have grade 8s working with grade 11s and grade 12s. We can have also students working together. So what we really do is, the hard part is, for the first time, asking students, hey, this is your project. You're doing it. We are here to support you and help you and connect you, but ultimately it's in your hands. So in a school that doesn't have exams like APs or A levels or whatnot, this is really the culmination of their learning, their culmination of not just the content that they've engaged with, but also their ability to navigate networks, to connect with networks, to work through issues and challenges, to rely on other people, which is extremely difficult, and also to really push that towards not being about passion projects, but rather be about projects that come from passion, that contribute to community,
Yeah.
and that are able to really think with others. So we have projects that work really for the human and other than human world. And it's just absolutely wonderful to see them just grow and continue to work on these and have it take a life. Um, I can't imagine a better job than this. And I can't imagine how, or I mean, I could only let you know how happy I am every time we have greenstones at the end of the year, the presentations, how incredibly, incredibly proud I am.
Love it. Love it. Well, and I appreciate, and I think this is really important for our audience, both live and recorded, that you are building systems in the background. Whoops. Better. Somebody needs to mute, unfortunately. Here, I can mute you, Benjamin. Somebody is in the background building systems that allow for this to happen, right? So a capstone isn't just, oh, an offhand thought once in a while, right? This is something that you've built in repeatedly throughout their education. That seems really key. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you wanted to respond to that, Benjamin. I can't tell. And then I got distracted too by the cat. So not your cat, it's Emma's. It's all good. All right, we're going to assume that's not going to work. Oh, here we go. All right. So now make sure you unmute on that computer.
I
There you go.
love 5 years of Zoom, and here we are.
Yeah.
No, one of the things that we do when we start in grade 11 is work on team projects. So we have the students start to think about things in teams for some very concrete project on campus. This year, for instance, we had them build a swing set for early years. Now, if you think about what that means, building a swing set, you have to find the budget, pitch for the budget, find the materials, make sure that they are green school specific. So that means sustainable, upcycled, go through engineering, health and safety, test it with the kids, make sure that it's in the right area. I mean, it's actually quite complex, just a swing set, right? So going through that and us saying, hey, it's all you and we'll just support you is a great way to get them used to in groups and in safe environments, what that might be. And then eventually they work on these projects that keep going and network with folks and really achieve things I didn't think that would be possible at the very beginning. And that's really actually what's quite cool is the ideas that they have initially and how it ends up tends to be quite different. And I really appreciate that just emerges rather than having a set timeline, set processes, everything quite fixed. It just allows to have its own life. And that's quite magical. And so we have structures, but they're intentionally loose in order to give it life rather than make it feel mechanistic.
Love that. Yeah, that's terrific. And it definitely comes through in the sense that it's a very not, I mean, as you said, the students have gone after things that matter to them in the service of community. Yeah, it certainly didn't seem overly structured or forced from my perspective as a listener. Um, this is terrific. All right, I can see we are absolutely bottom of the hour here. Mel, you have something to share, I believe, coming up. Yeah?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah,
So
sure.
this was amazing. I'm sure all of you are just mind blown from listening to these students. They're incredible. We have one more event next week, Thursday. Same time, same place, 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific time. And those will feature two students from a program called Gone Boarding. And those students learn from shaping their own surfboards, snowboards, and skateboards. So I'm looking forward to that one too. So please join us. I'll drop the link in the chat for you to register.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Mel. And I'm so sorry we ran out of time and didn't get questions, more direct questions from our audience. I have just shared an article that Benjamin wrote for the What School Could Be Chronicle, called Voice Does Not Equal Power, From Speaking Up to Shaping Together. If any of you are striving to do more work around student voice, something beyond just we gave them a little bit of voice here and there, a little choice here and there, but really the teachers controlled everything. Benjamin really nailed it with this article all about what it looks like to do true participation with students as opposed to just letting them occasionally have a little bit of power. So wonderful article. We also have that the link for the Gone Boarding event. And I know that this event would not be complete without doing our traditional fist bump at the end. So I'm going to ask everyone, please make sure that you don't cover your own face up with the fist, but this is just so that our way of just celebrating basically the coming together and learning with each other from each other. Who's taking the picture? You got it? All right, perfect. Somebody got it? Okay, perfect. Awesome. Josh is not in a place where he can actually like turn on his sound. So as long as we got it, perfect. Well, thank you all to everyone for being here. Thank you to our three students. Those projects were wonderful. We really appreciate your sharing, your learning, your work, your ideas, your thinking. I think your communities will be better for the thinking that you're putting into these projects. And that's the whole idea. Benjamin, as always, thank you for bringing us wonderful examples of these green stones, which I also love the name. And any schools that are looking for ways to make capstone something more than just this little thing I have to get done before I can graduate, please, reach out to Benjamin. He's in the community. He's in LinkedIn. I'm sure he would love, love, love to share with others who want to go beyond the checkbox mentality when it comes to capstones. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day to our students and Benjamin. Wonderful evening to those of you in the U.S. or in this part of the world. And thank you all for being part of this.